so some of the materials that you are going to need for your career as an interior architect and design student. Amongst some of the more obvious things to talk about, such as the scalpel that we have given to you in the welcome pack, and you also have an engineer's square, which is going to be very useful indeed. One thing that we've given to you is the card selection. And hopefully you've still got some card left in your stash. For example, the grey board is going to be invaluable. We've got a couple of different thicknesses there of maybe 1 or 2 millimeters in thickness. Now this material is quite a good thing. I've just come across this recently, called Craft Board with a K, K-R-A-F-T board, and this is 2 millimeters thick, and this in particular cuts really well. I'm going to use a Stanley blade for this. Okay, this is something I do recommend using, getting used to. It's a little bit more heavy duty than the Stanley blade, sorry, the scalpel, and it's perfect for these slightly thicker cardstocks. And you know, you've got quite a bit of flex on there, which is quite useful for a lot of projects, no doubt. And indeed, you can you know, cut and slot into it and take any shape that you want. So it's quite a good, useful material. And again, with it being this kind of tan colour, it'll contrast nicely to those sheets of grey board that you've got for your project. You know, you'll get a nice two-tone effect. When it comes to looking at materials, really we are expecting to see some nice tones and textures coming through, and these don't necessarily have to reflect the material that you would use. Now there's 2 schools of thought on there. One is that yes, that is the case, you might need to do that, and another is that you know, you're making a representation with your model, so the models can be representative in their materials as well. You know, we are able to communicate with these models, so perhaps you might want to think about the different tonalities, the different colours within the project. I've got some other stuff here. The blank card, maybe you've got a few bits of this left, that'll look really smart. Such a clean, flat, solid colour. And again, we've got a solid colour throughout there as well. So this is a great, you know, quite an expensive material, don't get me wrong, so use it accordingly, sparingly. Some grey cards. A few other things that we've picked up along the way are, I went to the supermarket and was able to grab some of the materials from their stacking, when they were stacking the shelves and resupplying. So I've got a large green cardboard box, which was obviously free, which is fantastic, and I was quite particular about the ones that I did collect. So I've got the ones where they weren't quite as bashed up on the surface, so we could use that. On this side we've got a nice solid flat colour, so again you could use this for maybe an accent along the way. Accent colour. And again, some of the smaller inserts. With the surface I was particularly keen to keep as a sharp, flat surface. And let's see, I got some fruity water, a decent flat A4 size, and you know, we've got the cereal packets from the kitchen that when you get inside there, you know, you've got some, typically, this is pretty trashed, flat surface material there. I was expecting grey, but a white material which you could use to create some structures. And then on the way back from the supermarket, there was a store that was getting rid of a load of cardboard, and a load of cardboard recycling day, obviously. This was from a fabric shop, and we've got some pretty heavy duty card here, which as you can see is white and brown. It's kind of a tan cherry on the inside. It's a great colour, lovely colour. And here again we've got that really flat, clean, crisp surface to use for our models. They also had stashes of grey board, and they were really thick. Like this thickness here is like 3mm, so I doubt I'll be using that. What you could use this for is some solid floors. You know, it's 1 to 100, about 3mm. That is 30mm. So you could get away with some really decent heavy floor plates with this thing, and build your model on top. And again, you can see the contrasting of colours there. So think about that when you're ordering your stock. The other thing which I've not really got much of, but I would really recommend, is the corrugated cardboard. And this stuff happens to be in one of these packs. But keep your Amazon delivery packages when they arrive with the materials in. You can use those. The reason these are quite useful is because they are quite, lightweight to cut. I'll bring that to that edge and get rid of this. Easy to cut for the thickness. We've got a double skin or double wall for this card, and what that means is we've got a decent bit of thickness which can represent your building quite well. So that is about 8mm thick. I would really recommend getting some thicker cardstock to mass out your project. From there we've got a few other objects we can finish off with. I bought a pack of it doesn't have the name on there. Where's the name gone? Just to make sure I call it the right thing. No, that's gone. This is marquetry. Oh, there we go. Marquetry wood veneers, and these wood veneers are offcuts, different types of materials, and in here we've got some really beautiful thin strips of real wood, and again all different textures and tones and colours. Really useful for dropping on certain parts of your model, just with different contrasts and effects. Like, look at that, it's incredible material. It's got a reflective quality, iridescent almost. And then these are nearly full sheets, so yeah, really useful kind of things to mock up on your project. They can range in price. They're about 15 or 20 quid for a pack like that. So it's like an A4 pack, 250 grams. But you'll have that for 3 years at least, going on. One thing you'll notice is a lot of these materials are cardboard, are boards, manufactured sheets. So that might reflect the type of project that I'll be working on. The idea is that all of these can be put into the recycling bin once we've finished with them, and we won't have much to worry about. So we've talked about cutting the card with the materials there. The other thing we might look at getting are some different types of hardwoods or softwoods. I've got a pack of matchsticks. Matchsticks are really useful when you want to create some structures. Got loads of matchsticks. Matchsticks are always really useful for all over the types of projects. The other thing are coffee stirrers. I don't think we gave you any coffee stirrers in your packs. We can get like a box of 1,000 for about 5 quid, and they are going to be really versatile when it comes to making some temporary structures. They really well represent different types of materials. You can glue them together in like stacks of 3. You've got a nice solid beam, or you can stack them together like a little raft, glue on top of them, like so. Just about seeing the video there. Okay. The bigger brother of those, obviously, is lolly sticks. So we've got a few lolly sticks in your welcome pack, but yeah, these are quite inexpensive to buy as a craft item. And then the bigger brother of those are wooden tongue depressors, which you can get from the Bay or Amazon or whatever. And these guys are massive, so they're really good for mixing silicone and resin, and plaster and things like that. But they're also, going to be quite useful strips of timber. As far as cutting these things are concerned, the small things we can cut. We can do a few scores with that blade, do a snap, and a few scores and a very controlled snap. You should be able to get a good edge on there. The other thing I've got over here is a bit of sandpaper, and that sandpaper is 100 grit, so it's quite coarse. It does have a nice texture to it, and you can very carefully run the material over that sandpaper. And you can get that packs, if you get them on the internet, they're usually large packs of different types of coarseness, grades of sandpaper, and they're relatively affordable as well. Let's see if I can do the same with this guy. Just do it freehand. If I carefully snap that. Yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe recommend cutting that properly, as it were, with a little bit more with this guy. I also picked up these cardboard straws, which I thought were pretty ace, because they already have a lot of characteristics and properties that we've seen in some of the precedents and research that we've undertaken already. They're a pack, they've got great quality to them, and they can be cut usually by taking the blade and rolling the cardboard around. That blade is very blunt. Alright, they do slightly get squashed. Maybe even a sharp scissor would cut through that. And if you're using scissors, that will kind of crush the end of the tube, so you want to avoid that. So you definitely use a sharp blade when using these things. The alternative is wooden dowels, and these are bamboo dowel rods, and they're about 5mm in thickness. But to cut those, it's going to be a little bit trickier. I don't imagine you'll be able to cut that using this technique. Let's see. You can be a bit forceful with that. So on there, I don't know if you can see, that does actually leave a nice score line and a little snap on both sides. No, it's quite thick. It's not too bad actually. You do get a nice crisp cut line where we did score it, but the centre of that is all rough, so you would need to go to the sandpaper and flatten that off. They were just a few quid for those. Fantastic, yeah, I would recommend those. They look really good. Bamboo skewers. And I've got the same here but square. So these are bamboo, but they are square profile instead of round. And they're about 2mm, so you can get some good shapes from there. Going further, we've even got, you can buy hardwood packs of hardwood. We've got packs of hardwood dowel, all different diameters of dowel, and also some square dowel. You get round dowel, or square dowel, or square rod, and you can see they're all different thicknesses, different profiles, and for that you won't be able to use a scalpel or a blade for that. You are going to need a miter saw, and this is a razor saw, it's called, and a miter block, and usually you can get these in a little set for about £15 or whatever from your favourite online retailer. But here they've got cuts for 90 degrees and 45 degrees. Okay, so you'll get really accurate cuts over and over again. And it's got a little lip here which slots onto the side of the bench. If you can see that here. So that's slotting onto the bench and it's stopping me from pushing it away. And I'll put the material against the far edge usually. And I'll do a small bit here as an example. You would measure your stock, put a little line on it, and then what was that, 5 or 6 strokes of the saw, and we've got our little block of wood which we can use to make our structure. If required, you can give it a little tickle with the sandpaper and get rid of those edges. And different types of glue we can use. I've got wood adhesive here, which is from a builder's merchant. There's about £4, D4 wood adhesive, and this is pretty high quality and dries quite quickly. We've got super glues which we can use. High quality super glue, Zap a Gap, and this is medium, so you can get thick, medium and thin. I would recommend the medium, it's quite versatile, or the thick is really gloopy and is quite useful, but this I wouldn't really use super glue if you can avoid it. But the thing that you might get away with using is the hot glue gun. We've all been given a hot glue gun. This is my hot glue gun, and yeah, it works pretty well. You can just give it a quick squirt, leave it on the surface you don't mind getting drops of hot glue on. Otherwise, a bit of PVA glue, craft glue, whatever, is going to be all that you need. And don't forget, yeah, we've got these engineer's squares. I've got, monstrous ones, which, are very heavy, very useful for weighing things down, making sure materials stick together. I've got a really great, massive hatchy saw, which I can chop at. No, I can't chop at. It's got really, really sharp teeth, and really great at cutting the wood stock very quickly. And if you recall from the model making lesson we had with Claire from the introduction weeks, little pegs. So these are what are these? Crocodile clips. But if you don't have crocodile clips, you can use pegs from your laundry basket. So loads of things there. Oh, I've also got rolls of cork, which have been quite useful, quite popular for a lot of your research. So this is about 2mm cork, and I think we've got 5 rolls for about a tenner. But if you go to like the Wilkinsons or something, they do cork tiles that you can put on the wall or the floor or the ceiling, and you get packs of those for like a £5, and they go really well. They're really versatile. So the things you can see, I've got natural materials, I've got warm tones, and I've got cool with the woods, and I've got cool tones with the cardboard. This is something that I was using earlier. So I was making a little site model of the site, and this is all using the wood stock and a bit of sandpaper. Yeah, and so that's using that. Bit of sandpaper and a little bit of the packaging paper that you get when you order this stuff off of the internet. Yeah, so I was using that for the trees, lolly sticks for the trees themselves, and it's all about using the different contrasting materials for that. One thing I've used here, which may not be the most appropriate, is I used a chopping board to as a baseboard. So I've got a nice solid base, and that chopping board was like £6, and so it's a decent model platform. Maybe the cork and the bamboo don't really go. Maybe I could have put a different material on instead, but the bamboo at least allows me to do a hot glue, because ultimately what I'm going to do is rip this off and use it as an actual chopping board, which will be quite exciting. We've also been using hot glue here to make a shape. There's a lot of opportunities here for you to experiment and make some geometries, and that should just pop off eventually. I've got air dry clay, which you can use to sculpt some shapes. It's quite tricky to get a perfect looking object with that though. You've already got some double-sided, but I've got a chunky roll, masking tape, got a good sized roll there. You might have a few people, otherwise we'll represent them with other objects as and when we get cracking with this project. So there you go. Good luck with that.